Then I would say, let's get started. Hi, and welcome to our second Learning Sneak Preview live session, introducing the design, data, models, and transform data in SAP Analytics Cloud learning journey. I'm Dilara, and I'm here for the technical moderation today. So first of all, I want to say something about the technical part. As you already noticed, you can't turn on your webcams or unmute yourself because we are all in the webinar Zoom mood today. But don't worry, in the Q&A tab down below, you will be able to ask some questions. So this live session will also be recorded, but we will cut out the Q&A part in the recording. Another point that I would like to mention is that you will find on learning.sap.com under the learning journeys some Q&A and deep dive live sessions. So with the Q&A live sessions, you can gain answers to questions from your self-study. Expert deep dive live sessions fill knowledge gaps on specific topics which are difficult to grasp, or additional topics that are not included in the learning journeys. So that was basically from my side. Now I will give the word to our expert, Norman.
Okay, thank you, Dilara, for the nice introduction. At this time, we have a lot of material to cover, okay, within a limited amount of time. So I'm just gonna straight share my desktop and begin the presentation, okay? So let me go ahead and share my screen. And what we're gonna cover today, we're going to do a sneak peek, a teaser on SAP Analytics Cloud modeling. So let me just begin. I'm going to go through the slide deck. I'm going to cover what is SAP Analytical Cloud modeling, okay? Why it's important, and I'll go through just a simple demo of how to create a model, create a story on top of a model, okay? But the first thing I would like to do is to cover what we're going to cover during this short session, this teaser session, okay? So you have a sneak peek on SAP Analytics Cloud, okay? And with the focus of modeling, okay? So what is SAP Analytics Cloud? We'll talk about why it's important, okay? Just a general overview of what it can do. The main focus of this teaser is basically the different models that you can create, okay? There's two main types, import models and live models, and I'll cover why it's important, okay? And then we're gonna, toward the latter portion of the presentation, I'll just do some simple demo, okay? Give you a quick tour of what is SAC, the different connections, a sample model that's imported, and a story that's based on the model, okay? Then I will actually go through a live demo of creating a model using one of the connections that's available in SAC, okay? And then I'll create a simple SAC stories. There's a lot more details to cover. We won't be able to cover all the details of modeling in this session, but the good news here is that we have a learning journey, and we'll conclude with the SAP learning journey, design data models and transform data in SAP Analytics Clouds, okay? And then at this point, as Dilara nicely stated, that we won't be recording the Q&A session. I'm going to hand it over to her to start the Q&A session, and then we'll stop the recording, okay? And then please bring your questions, raise your questions, and I'll stay behind and answer any questions that you may have, okay? So with that, let me begin with what we're going to cover, okay? So what is SAP Analytics Cloud, okay? SAP Analytics Cloud is the strategic long-term BI solution, a business intelligence solution that is native in the cloud, okay? To the left, you see other SAP cloud applications, okay? And to the right, you see on-premise an on-premise BI solution called SAP Business Objects, and SAP Analytical Cloud provides analytical services in terms of stories, okay? And then we'll talk about what's the story, okay? So what is the centerpiece of analytic? Studying data, analyzing data, so we can make better decisions, okay? And make things run better and faster, okay? So let's talk about stories. Oh, sorry about that. That's next slide, not next, this one, okay? So let's talk about the SAC stories. Okay. So SAP Analytical Cloud, a story is the main visualization component that you create in SAC. Okay. It has different pages like workbooks. Okay. It has different visualizations. Okay. But before we can create any visualization stories, charts, pie charts, tables, graphical visualization, we need a model, okay? And the model is basically, it's also known as a semantic layer, okay? So when you create a model, you present to the business user a list of business terms that they're familiar with, okay? Now, there's different type of models that we can access, and then we'll go into the details of using SAP models to access data. And I'll give you a quick demo of how does the import model looks like. And I'll go through a demo of how to actually create a live model, okay? And the reason why models are important is because without data, the main focus of SAC is to analyze data. So data is the core product that this analytical service provides. Okay, with all analytics, you have dimensions, qualitative data, and you have measures, quantitative data that we use to help us make our decisions. Okay, make better decisions. Okay, there's topics such as private dimensions, public dimensions, and these are modeling components within SAC models. Okay, so why it's important? Okay, we import models we have the ability to connect to any data source. Okay, as we started off with the importance of SAC, the importance of SAC is that any existing SAP solution, whether it's BW, S4HANA, Concur, universes, or other third-party data sources like BigQuery, Google, we have the ability to access any data anywhere, okay, on-premise or in the cloud, okay? And the import models, we actually replicate data into SAC, and then we could also harmonize the data. We could do data wrangling, add additional calculations, and we could also combine data from other data sources in SAC. Okay, SAC is software as a service. Okay, with certain subscription services, you pay for only what you use. Okay, it's not traditional on-premise license, so you have very flexibility in terms of pricing. It is highly scalable. Okay, so once you import, once you create a model against imported data, you could also schedule the data to refresh, and you also have on-demand refresh capabilities. Okay, so this is how we get data into SAC. And once you have the import models, you could build a story on top of it. Okay, and then when you look at stories, it gives you valuable information, analytical data, to help you make better decisions within your organizations. Okay. Now, another type of models that is available is the live model. Okay. For companies that already have an existing solution, analytical solutions like BW or SAP HANA or S4HANA, these solutions, they have their own modeling capabilities, their own semantic layer. And if you already have the business content already available within these source systems, and you do not want to replicate data over to SAC in the cloud, we have this option called live models. Okay, so you can leverage the virtual data model in S4HANA, which is ABAP Core Data Services. You have some solutions that's been around for many years, like SAP BW or SAP Business Object Universes. Okay, and the good news here is that existing solutions that you have, hybrid data sources on-premise, you can leverage existing solutions and bring it into SAC. So SAC supports the hybrid scenario where we have native cloud solutions, okay, in the cloud, and we have on-premise, and we create stories that access data, whether it's in the cloud or on-premise. Okay. So that's why this capability is nice to have, because you can leverage existing solutions that you're familiar with, that you've been using for many years. Okay. And of course, you could also benefit from cloud innovations. Okay. And connect to any data sources in the cloud. So at this time, I will just go through a few demos. Okay. So this is a teaser, a sneak peek of a preview of what's to come. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log on to a live SAC system. I'm just give you a quick tour of the different connection options on-premise or native cloud solutions, application in the cloud. Okay. And I'll show you a simple model that's imported. Okay. And then I will show you an existing story. Okay. So I'll just give you a quick tour of the environment. Now, demo, then I will actually switch over and I will actually build something. Okay. I will show you how to build a live model using an existing semantic layer that's on-premise. Okay. I'll use the SAP Business Object Universe, and with the connections already established, I simply just create a model using existing connections, and data will not be transferred over to the SAP HANA Cloud. Okay. But the metadata will be hosted in SAP Analytics Cloud. So I could basically connect to any SAP client, and I could access on-premise data using live data connection. Okay, so this is my second demo that I will be doing. And then I'm going to switch over to my final demo, which is that now that I have a model based on live data connection, I'll create a simple stories. Okay. Now the benefit with SAC is that it's not difficult. Now, setting up the connections, dealing with data encryption, data security, connecting to your cloud endpoints, okay, that's infrastructure, okay. But once we have the technical setup between cloud data sources, on-premise data sources, then the actual process of creating models, creating stories is relatively simple, okay. And I will show you how to create a simple story, okay. But simple to create, but it has a lot of advanced options. And then to build something more advanced, more complicated, of course, you need some additional training. And the good news here is that I will conclude my portion with the learning journey. Okay, so let me just go through the demo first. Okay, and then I'm going to introduce the learning journey that you can go through at your own pace to learn a little bit more about SAP Analytics Cloud modeling. Okay, so let me stop here for a second. Okay, I'll come back to this slide. Let me switch over to my demo system. Okay, give me a second. Okay, and let me begin. Okay, so I'm going to access my SAP Analytics Cloud tenant. I'm going to log on to SAC. Okay. And let me just give you a quick tour of connection models and stories. Okay. So we're going to take a look at the existing solution. So I'm going to basically open up the navigational panel. And before you can create any models, your infrastructure team has to have the connection established. So I'll just give you a quick tour. I click on connections down here. As you can see, all SAP cloud solutions, cloud applications in BTP, whether it's SAP DataSphere, HANA Cloud, S/4HANA, okay? We have connections established, okay? Now, I don't have the ability to modify existing connections. The administrator did a good job because that's not my role. My role is not to create the connections. It requires some technical setup. You have to make sure data security is protected, things are encrypted. Okay, so there's other courses for that. But what I would like to show you is that we can connect to any data, anywhere, anytime. So what are my cloud options? If I say data source type, here's these are my cloud data sources that I can connect to. Okay, either live or acquired data. There's two types of models you can create: import, which is acquired; live data, which is basically not replicating data into SAC, the HANA data layer within SAC. Okay, and here's on-premise. Okay, and then of course there's different applications. There's cloud storage. Okay, there's CRM solutions. There's data warehouse solutions. Okay, and working with our hyperscaler partners, like we could connect to other sources like BigQuery or HR related data, human capital. Okay, and of course, if there's any new data sources that comes in that is new to the market, we will have those APIs to support it. So what I want to share with you is that we can connect to any data anywhere, and we support the hybrid scenario. Okay, if you're cloud native, great. We can connect to those data sources. If you're on premise, you have a solutions that's been around for 20 years, 30 years, and you have a semantic layer like the universe. Guess what? You can reuse the semantic layer of a solution, well-established solution on premise, and bring it to SAC. Okay. So let's look at an example model. So once you have the connection set up, you can go to modeler. Okay. And these are existing models that's already in existence. Okay, so you could do live data, import data. Okay, so let's take a look at the import data. Okay, so data is actually replicated. I'll just use an existing model, this one over here. And in this model is imported. So as a modeler, you want to use import option. Yeah, you start with the data management. Okay. Okay. You use a semantic layer. Okay, a model that's on premise or in the cloud. And of course, you can schedule the refresh. And then once you have a connection, then of course you could look at the model structure. Okay, so you have your dimensions and measures. It's like your star schema. Okay, and SAC, there's a lots of capabilities that I won't be able to go through in too much detail. It's actually very simple, but it's very powerful and it can be complex. We support core BI, business intelligence, reporting, dashboarding, what have you. We also support planning. Okay. We could, if you're in a planning mode, you could also read right to the database. You can handle that what if scenario. And we also have predictive analytics. We have machine learning, artificial intelligence to do advanced analytics. Okay, so of course, unfortunately, I won't be able to cover those topics in deep detail. Okay, but if you use import, you could also create your own calculations. Okay. So that's a quick tour of a model. Now, if I want to look at a story, I click on stories. And here's just a sample story of how story looks like. A story is a visualization. Think of it as a report. Okay. And I'll basically click on, let me click on a story, existing story. Sorry, let me look at let me look at a simple story. Here we go. We go to, I clicked on the folder. Let me click on the story itself. Okay. And here's a simple story. Okay. So it's a report, it's a dashboard. You have different pages. Here's summary, here's analysis. Okay. And here's sales management overview. Okay. Now we do have an SDK where if you know JavaScript, you could control the dynamic nature of a dashboard through JavaScript, through script. Okay. Obviously, I won't be able to go into the SDK in too much detail. So I just want to quickly just show you the connection, the model that's imported in the story. And let me switch over to actually creating something. Okay. Now, the next demo I'm going to show you is that, let me see if I could create something real quick. So I'm gonna create a model from scratch using live data connection. Okay. I click on modeler. Let me go to modeler. And let me go to the very top. And what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to create a live data model. Okay. And I'm going to select a valid connections that's already created for me to use. I'll select UNV Live. Let me select the semantic layer. I'll use the eFashion semantic layer. And I'll just create something simple. Okay, I'll just say here's state, here's year, here's quarter. Let me get rid of less is best. So I have state, year, quarter, and then maybe I'll drag over store name, and then maybe I'll add a filter. Let me get rid of, let me just keep it simple. And I'll put a filter on year equals to 2003. Okay. Okay, so simple. I click OK. Oh, sorry about that. Let me get some measures. I have dimensions. Let me drag over some measures. I hit OK. And then what's happening is that the metadata, okay, the SQL basically is basically the metadata used to generate the SQL at the time of usage is now prepared. Okay, so I have dimensions, I have measures. Okay, I'll hide dimensions that I don't need. So I'll just keep it simple: state, year, quarter, store name with measures. And I'm going to save this as a model. And I'm going to save it to my file. I'll just call it teaser model using live data. Okay. Here we go. So let me save it. Now, what I would like to conclude with is that I'm going to now create a story against my model that I just created. Okay, the model that I just created was stored here. Okay, I'm going to go to story, create a story using a new canvas, optimize design view. So let me just go ahead and create something real quick. I'll create a chart. I'm going to use the existing story that I just created. And then the basic is that I could increase the size of the chart. And then I'm going to add a measure. Okay, I'll select all the measures. Okay, I want to see what other dimensions are available. I click available dimensions. And then I could also add these dimensions. Okay, and this is very basic, right? I could say I want to break down state by year, quarter. Okay, so I have my visualizations. Okay, and just for the sake of time, I'm gonna save this as a story. Okay, let me go ahead and save this as a story. I'm gonna say view. Okay, and I could go to file, save, and I call it a simple story using live data connection. Okay. And the difference here between import is that data is not stored in SAC, it's not stored in the cloud. It goes directly to the web client. Okay, so let me click save. Okay, and there you go. There you go. So I just went through a quick demo. So look, there's a lot more details. And here's the good news. Before I hand this over to Delaria, let me go ahead and switch over. The good news here is that we have a learning journey. Okay, and the learning journey. Oh, sorry about that. Let me go to the very end. The learning journey is a free 10-hour online course that you can take, okay, to learn more about the details of modeling, okay? So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Delaria to just open up for Q&A. And I just want to just thank you for attending this sneak peek on SAC modeling. Okay, so let me go ahead and stop sharing, and I'm going to hand it over to Delaria. Okay.
Thank you, Norman, for this awesome presentation.